It was 6:47 in the morning when the doors of Iron Haven Gym unlocked. The air smelled like sweat and silence. Lights flickered on one by one, and the sound of a single treadmill echoed through the hall. When Mark Lewis stepped inside, he wasn't there to work out. He was looking for his wife. She hadn't come home last night, and her car was still parked outside. He walked past the empty lockers, calling her name. Then, just beyond the mirror wall near the weights section, he saw her. Motionless. Cold. Lying beside the same treadmill she had spent months running on to change her life. Her transformation was supposed to save her, but in the end, it led her straight here. This is the story of the Ohio wife who lost 200 pounds, found love with her trainer, and ended up dead inside the same gym that changed everything. You're watching Dark Motives, the place where real stories of love, lies, and human darkness unfold. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another case like this one. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. Today's case takes us to Columbus, Ohio, where a woman's fight to rebuild her confidence turned into one of the most haunting fitness tragedies the state has ever seen. At the center of it all is Mark Lewis, a devoted husband who stood by his wife through years of struggle, and Emily Lewis, a woman who spent half her life trapped inside a body she hated, until one decision changed everything. She wanted to feel beautiful again. She wanted to feel alive. But what she didn't know was that her journey to transformation would end with betrayal, obsession, and death inside the very gym that gave her hope. Before the headlines and the heartbreak, there was love. Mark and Emily Lewis met in their early 20s at a small diner just outside Columbus. She was a waitress working long shifts. He was a mechanic who spent most of his days covered in grease. They didn't have much, but what they had was real. For years, they built a quiet life together. A small house, a shared bank account, a dog named Daisy, and dreams that revolved around each other. Mark adored Emily. He loved her laugh, the way she danced while cooking, and how she always believed in him when no one else did. But as time passed, life began to weigh heavier, on their bills, their relationship, and on Emily's body. After a difficult pregnancy that ended in loss, Emily's health took a turn. The depression that followed made her retreat into food, and soon she found herself gaining more and more weight. By her mid-30s, she weighed over 350 pounds. What began as emotional comfort slowly became her prison. She stopped going out, avoided photos, and even skipped family gatherings. Friends drifted away and nights grew quieter. Mark tried his best. He encouraged her gently, made small changes around the house, and told her she was beautiful no matter what. But Emily didn't see beauty when she looked in the mirror. She saw failure, pain, and the woman she used to be slipping further away. Their marriage turned into routine. Mark worked overtime to cover bills. Emily stayed home scrolling through fitness videos she didn't believe she could ever follow. The distance between them wasn't loud. It was silent, slow, and sad. Then, one evening, after overhearing a couple in a grocery store whisper about her size, Emily came home in tears. She sat at the kitchen table and said, "I don't want to live like this anymore." That night, something changed. She made a promise, to herself and to Mark, that she would take control of her life again. Neither of them knew it, but that single decision would start a chain of events that would end in tragedy. Emily's first day at Iron Haven Gym was quiet. She stood near the front desk clutching her water bottle, unsure of where to begin. Most of the faces around her were young, fit, and confident, everything she wasn't. Then she met Tyler Grant, one of the gym's trainers. He had a calm smile, an easy tone, and a way of making people feel like they belonged. That first day when he said, "We'll take it one step at a time," Emily believed him. Weeks turned into months, and Tyler became more than just a trainer. He became her motivation. He pushed her when she wanted to give up, celebrated her smallest victories, and told her things she hadn't heard in years. "You're stronger than you think, Emily." Those words stuck to her heart like glue. Each workout became less about pain and more about purpose. For the first time in a long time, she began to recognize herself again. Her transformation was slow but steady. Every pound lost came with a small piece of confidence regained. By the 5th month, she had already dropped 80 pounds. People in town began to notice. Neighbors complimented her, friends reappeared, and Mark, though proud, started to feel something shift. The woman who once avoided mirrors now spent hours at the gym. She smiled more, laughed more, and talked about Tyler more than she realized. Tyler started extending their sessions, staying late to help her stretch or film progress videos. Their conversations grew personal, about her marriage, her loneliness, and how she felt unseen for years. He listened, nodded, and told her she deserved happiness. It sounded harmless at first, but underneath that encouragement was a quiet connection that neither of them wanted to name. By the time Emily had lost 200 pounds, she was almost unrecognizable. The woman who once hid behind oversized clothes now wore fitted gym gear, confident and radiant. She had rebuilt her body, her confidence, and, unknowingly, a dangerous bond with the man guiding her through it. What began as a story of strength was slowly becoming one of temptation and blurred lines. And soon the line between motivation and obsession would disappear completely. By the time winter came around, Emily's transformation was complete. The town couldn't stop talking about her. She had become a symbol of discipline and change, but behind the smiles and social media posts, something darker was brewing. Tyler had grown attached in a way that didn't feel professional anymore. He would text her late at night, asking if she had eaten or if she was okay. At first it seemed caring. Then it became constant. Mark noticed the difference. Emily stopped waiting for him to get home before dinner. She spent more hours at the gym and came home smelling like Tyler's cologne. One night, Mark walked into their bedroom and found her scrolling through pictures of her workouts, most of them taken by Tyler himself. He asked if there was something going on. Emily laughed it off, but her voice shook as she said, "He just helps me stay focused." Mark didn't believe her. The following weeks were filled with quiet tension. Mark's jealousy grew, but so did Emily's distance. She had spent so long feeling invisible that the attention felt addictive. Tyler told her she looked amazing, that she didn't need to live under anyone's shadow anymore. He started making small comments about Mark, subtle things like, "You deserve someone who sees you." Those words replayed in her head long after she left the gym. Soon, the boundaries broke completely. Tyler began visiting her outside training hours, taking her out for late-night drives and meals. Emily told herself it was innocent, that she needed support from someone who understood her journey. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just about fitness anymore. The guilt started to eat at her, but the thrill of being wanted after years of neglect kept her from walking away. Mark finally confronted her one evening when she came home hours after her session had ended. She didn't deny it. She stood there in silence, tears streaming down her face while he packed a small bag and left the house. In that moment, everything she had worked for began to crumble. She had lost the weight, but now she was losing everything else. What she didn't know was that Tyler's affection came with an edge of control, and soon, her dream of freedom would turn into a nightmare she couldn't escape. It was a quiet Thursday night when Emily vanished. Mark hadn't heard from her all day and the silence felt heavy. He called her phone several times, but it went straight to voicemail. At first, he thought she might be cooling off after their fight. But when midnight came and her car still wasn't in the driveway, something inside him told him this wasn't just space. Something was wrong. At Iron Haven Gym, the lights were off, and the parking lot was empty except for Emily's silver sedan. Her gym bag was still on the passenger seat and her phone charger dangled from the dashboard. It looked like she had stepped inside and never come back out. Mark stood there staring at her car, his heart pounding, unsure whether to call the police or the gym owner first. The next morning, word spread quickly. Tyler told officers that Emily had texted him around 8 p.m., saying she was staying late to finish cardio. But when detectives checked the gym's security cameras, something didn't add up. The footage showed her entering the gym that evening, but there was no sign of her ever leaving. The cameras near the back exit had been mysteriously turned off. The search for Emily became the talk of the town. Friends, neighbors, and even old gym members came forward to help. Flyers covered every lamppost in Columbus. Local news stations ran her story, showing side-by-side photos of her before and after the transformation, calling it The Vanishing of Emily Lewis. Mark barely slept. He spent his nights driving to nearby gas stations, checking surveillance tapes, asking anyone who might have seen her. Days passed, then a week. Hope began to fade. Mark told reporters that he just wanted to know the truth, no matter how painful it was. What no one realized was that the answer he was looking for was much closer than anyone imagined. Inside the same gym where Emily rebuilt her confidence, her story was about to end in the most horrifying way possible. It was early morning when Mark returned to the gym for the third time that week. The police had already searched the place twice, but something in him couldn't stay away. He stood by the glass doors, staring inside, his reflection merging with the empty treadmills beyond. The gym had been temporarily closed since the investigation began. The smell of disinfectant lingered in the air, mixed with the faint scent of rubber and sweat. Mark convinced the owner to let him in one last time, hoping maybe he'd find something, anything, that could explain what had happened. As he walked through the rows of machines, every sound echoed. The lights buzzed softly above him, and his footsteps seemed too loud in the emptiness. He stopped by the mirror wall, the same one where Emily used to smile after every session. A single dumbbell was lying on the floor, rolled halfway under a bench. He bent down to pick it up, but something caught his eye near the far end of the room. Behind the row of stationary bikes, there was a door slightly open. It led to the old storage area, a place members rarely entered. His pulse quickened as he pushed the door open. The air inside was thick, cold, and still. And there, lying beside a toppled treadmill, was Emily. Her body was pale, motionless, her gym clothes stained and torn. For a moment, Mark couldn't breathe. He fell to his knees beside her, whispering her name over and over, hoping she'd open her eyes. But she didn't move. On the wall above her were faint streaks, like something heavy had been dragged across it. Her smartwatch, the one she always wore, blinked with a dead battery. Mark screamed for help, but the sound barely made it past the walls. When the paramedics arrived minutes later, they confirmed what he already knew. Emily was gone. The woman who had fought so hard to change her life had met her end in the very place she thought would save her. And as police sealed off the gym, everyone began asking the same question. How did no one hear a thing? The investigation into Emily's death began immediately. Detectives treated the gym as a full crime scene. Every inch was photographed, every fingerprint dusted, every security feed examined. The autopsy confirmed what many feared. Emily hadn't died from an accident. She had been struck on the back of the head with a heavy object, possibly a dumbbell. There were signs of a struggle and defensive bruises on her arms. The question was why and who. When police questioned Tyler Grant, he appeared calm but nervous. He said he had finished training Emily around 8 p.m. and left her there to continue her cardio alone. He claimed she texted him later saying she'd lock up after herself. But investigators quickly found holes in his story. Her phone had stopped sending signals around 8:19 p.m., just minutes after she arrived. There were no outgoing messages after that time. Detectives also noticed something else. The gym's back exit cameras had been disabled around the same hour Emily disappeared. When asked who had access to the camera system, the owner mentioned only two people, himself and Tyler. That discovery shifted the tone of the entire investigation. The once friendly trainer who had helped Emily lose 200 pounds was now the main suspect in her death. As they dug deeper, the picture became darker. Text messages between Emily and Tyler revealed an emotional affair. He often told her that she was better off without her husband, that Mark didn't deserve her new version of herself. But in the final days before her death, their messages turned tense. Emily had started pulling away. She told him she wanted to fix things with Mark, that she needed time to think. Tyler's replies grew cold and controlling. One message stood out to investigators. It read, If you walk away now, don't expect to walk away for good. When confronted with that message, Tyler's confidence broke. His voice trembled and sweat rolled down his temple. He insisted he didn't mean it literally, that it was just anger talking. But the evidence was stacking up fast. Police found his fingerprints on the back door handle even though he claimed he hadn't re-entered the gym that night. Still, without direct proof linking him to the murder weapon, they couldn't make an arrest. Not yet. Behind the scenes, Mark sat in silence as the news spread. The story made local headlines, and the world watched a husband mourn while the man his wife trusted most stood under a cloud of suspicion. But the truth wasn't done unraveling, because what detectives would soon discover next would turn the entire case upside down. 2 weeks after the discovery, detectives called Tyler back in for another round of questioning. By then, the pressure had started to break him. He looked thinner, restless, and constantly rubbed his hands together as if trying to wipe away guilt. At first, he repeated the same story, claiming he had left the gym before Emily died. But this time, investigators had something new, a piece of footage recovered from a neighboring store's outdoor camera. It showed Tyler's car pulling into the gym parking lot at 8:23 p.m., just minutes after Emily's phone went dead. When confronted with the footage, Tyler froze. He stared at the screen for a long moment, then lowered his head. What followed was a confession that stunned everyone in the room. He admitted that he and Emily had argued that night. She told him she wanted to end whatever was between them, that she planned to rebuild her marriage and take a break from training. Tyler said he lost control. In his words, "I just wanted her to listen. I didn't mean for it to go that far." He claimed it happened fast, a moment of rage, one mistake he could never undo. But detectives didn't stop there. As they dug deeper, they found out Tyler's obsession had begun long before Emily even realized it. He had installed a hidden camera in the training area, recording her sessions without her knowledge. He had kept her old progress photos on his personal laptop, dozens of them saved under a folder titled Inspiration. It wasn't love. It was possession. The kind that grows quietly, the kind that kills when it's rejected. In court, his calm demeanor shattered completely. As prosecutors revealed the evidence, his texts, the footage, the fingerprints, Tyler broke down, crying uncontrollably as he begged for forgiveness. But the room stayed silent. Mark sat in the front row, his eyes locked on the man who had taken everything from him. Tyler's words echoed through the courtroom. "I loved her more than he ever could." It was a chilling reminder that what started as admiration had turned into deadly obsession. The trial of Tyler Grant lasted 4 months. Every hearing drew crowds of people who once knew Emily as the cheerful woman at the gym who inspired everyone. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture of manipulation and control. They showed messages, security footage, and expert testimony that proved Tyler's intent wasn't sudden anger, but growing obsession. The jury took less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. Tyler was found guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. When the sentence was read, Mark sat still, his hands folded tightly in his lap. There was no relief, no victory, just quiet emptiness. He had lost the woman he loved, and no amount of justice could bring her back. In interviews, he said he replayed everything in his head every night. The fights, the words he didn't say, the times he could have seen the danger but didn't. He visited her grave every Sunday, bringing her favorite flowers and whispering apologies only she could hear. The gym never reopened. Its windows were boarded up, and a for sale sign hung where the Iron Haven logo once stood. For many in the community, it became a reminder of how something meant for healing could turn into a place of tragedy. People drove past it quietly, unwilling to look for too long. Emily's story spread far beyond Ohio. Documentaries, podcasts, and articles turned her name into a warning about how quickly admiration can twist into possession. Her journey began as a story of hope, a woman reclaiming her life, but it ended as a haunting lesson about trust and the dark corners of human desire. Some stories end quietly, but this one still echoes. Emily Lewis wanted nothing more than to feel alive again, to find strength in a place that once reminded her of weakness. She found that strength, but she also crossed paths with someone who saw her transformation not as inspiration, but as something to own. In the end, her determination to change her life became the very thing that took it away. Mark lives with the memory of that morning at the gym, the sight he can never unsee. He says he forgives her, and even him, but forgiveness doesn't erase the pain. It only dulls it. Every year on the anniversary of her death, he lights a candle in their old home, the same one they once filled with laughter. For him, it's not about closure anymore, it's about peace. The story of Emily Lewis is more than a crime. It's a reflection of how fragile the human heart can be when love turns into control and when admiration becomes obsession. It reminds us that even in the pursuit of self-discovery, danger can hide behind a friendly smile. Thank you for watching Dark Motives. If you made it this far, comment your thoughts about this case and tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that explore the darkest sides of human nature. Until next time, stay safe and never ignore the warning signs people try to hide behind kindness.